Yeah, very warm welcome. This is Andy. It's Freedom Talk Radio for this Monday. Today we're going across the pond. Might get our feet a little bit wet. We're going to the US and we're going to speak to Dave Weigel. He's from the Family Court Fraud Warrior Project on Facebook. I'll show you the link in a minute. And if you're listening and you don't have a link, then I don't know how you're listening, but it's freedomtalkradioonline.com and it's / live radio shows. And that page is where you can get all the phone numbers to call into the show later. Just before we go, we'll let you call into the show. Dave's admin's first priority. Probably we could do them first. I think Amy was one of the names wanted to have a chat. We'll let you know anyway, and then we'll give you this PIN number. Right. So that's sorted out. I'll just get the Facebook group up, and then we'll speak to Dave. We could find out, Dave, how you started this group, how you got into it. You know, you're a victim yourself of the family court. Myself personally, I'm not a victim of bad judges, but I'm a victim of like CPS over in the UK, forced adoptions. And I think all these cases are very similar. The parents shout at each other and then the lawyer thinks, well, I can make money out of that, or the social worker can make money out of that. Our case was the social workers. So, yeah. Over to you, Dave.
Yeah, I thank you, Andy, for the opportunity to continue to kind of push forth this mission. How I got into this is through a little bit of happenstance. Number one, my case in the U.S. out of New York City, divorce. Yes, it was contested, but to go a total of 14 years speaks to the underlying corruption and lunacy and absurdity involved in all of these systems. And it's funny enough, you would think that this is about U.S. laws, right? It's a U.S. court of law. Why would there be any international appeal in this at all? But strangely enough, I've noticed that with a couple of videos that did go around to the community viral, thankful, everyone likes to complain about the internet and all the damage it does. But as far as this goes, as far as being victimized by something so specific, it does a great job of being able to connect victims from around the country. And once I was presented with the opportunity to get to understand how similar these cases are, and then having that spill over to other countries, I myself, my brain coach, Charlie McCready, is out of London. And I'm going back a year now. I engaged him to help me with parental alienation, knowing that my brain was not working right, from the years of abuse, and I just hired him to make sure I'm not making any big mistakes, and I was, I really was convinced at the time that my kids needed to know exactly how much they were being lied to. And I needed somebody like Charlie to sit there and say, Dave, they want to be teenagers. They don't want to be involved in this at all. They don't care, and I needed somebody to tell me that. And I think a lot of us do. And I remember sitting there saying, God, if I knew in day one or first year what I had to learn, through this process, the many layers of the onion that I had to peel back, how counterintuitive, how much of this is a show, is theater. It's not even about the law. It just kind of snowballed and into this project that we've got going on where I'll get into it. It is quite dynamic, but we started this group to do a very specific thing, to provide the transparency that this is a playbook being utilized, throughout. No one needed a memo to go out. They just smell the money. And that's the connection between the UK and here. It's not difficult to figure out, when you're in this position of power, what makes money. All right. People's roles in this whole situation. And I just think the biggest story of our time is uncovering and discussing just how universal this playbook is to these. It's a destruction of the family, and that can't be good for anybody anywhere, So I'm trying to do a good thing. I'm also trying to do this to really show people that, I see so many and speak to so many specifically broken people, to see and understand. And I've been studying the behavioral sciences for 30 years on Wall Street. It's the cornerstone of my investment funds. I also have felt compelled because of a number of factors that just allowed me to keep standing here. I've survived 7 seizures of this. I've survived, back-to-back, audits by regulators that were, clearly a sign that no one has 6 back-to-back audits if they're not looking for something. So most people get destroyed at this level of playbook that's thrown at them. And I somehow slipped through the cracks, and I feel compelled to have to explain what I've learned, and hopefully now with this Warrior Project have a system in place that can actually reveal this in a way that it hasn't been before. And that's the plan, and basically use the data mining, the similarities between the financial world and what constitutes financial fraud, which I'm a certified financial planner. I'm a certified portfolio manager. My investment funds are about regulatory arbitrage of seeking who's bullshitting and why, and how people actually get paid versus how they say they get paid. So I'm hoping the similarities and the correlations to these two worlds are able to bring different audiences together to say, we've got a 5-alarm fire problem here. I can't pull away from this because this is a 5-alarm fire. I mean, we've justified an industry of selling kids and destroying kids and destroying, taking a horrific thing that has to exist in reality and pouring, rocket fuel and nuclear weaponizing it. And, if it was a situation where in the US, I could only speak to, if it was a situation where like 80% of people really get screwed and 20% of people don't, you could talk to bias. That's the definition of bias. When you see 10,000 legal processes fail to hold any kind of accountability on anyone, for absurdity levels, but then you see the sinister stuff. Then you see why they go to these great lengths to condition these people with abuse, condition them with this feeling of lack of safety. To discuss, and I think an even bigger story is to discuss the psychological torture that these people go through, what it does to them, and more importantly, some of the things that we're discovering that'll help people get out, get healed. Since I started doing service, all of a sudden, I'm not ruminating in my own head about my own case. I'm not snapping at anyone who gives me a slight affront. I'm not, constantly, reliving the trauma of being isolated from my kids and having fatherhood robbed from me. I was a father for a number of years, and then all of a sudden, after what, I was not a father. I didn't live a father's life, and it was absolutely unbearable. And to force a parent through that, for somebody else's financial gain is about the lowest thing I could see in the world. So
when I was going through the trauma too, I guess I was lucky because I found out the hard way, and the hard way is you can't be a fighter, warrior, and be that father that's lost the children. You've got to decide, I think, at the time, you mourn your children, then be the fighter. You can't do both. And I found it very hard to do both. But then I decided that, why fight and bitch about it? They're not coming back. We've been told that already. Let's just. So I turned into a fighter very early. Our children got took into care because of medical problems they had, and we kept taking them to different hospitals. I mean, they tried the moonshines by proxy. They tried parental alienation, domestic violence, but at the end of the day, they weren't getting none of that. And although my children are 25 and 23 now and they're damaged, slightly damaged, obviously, it's not good for anyone. They do understand, that it wasn't our fault. So ours is a bit of a success story, and I do sort of urge people never give up, whether you're talking to your children or not. They'll always remember you for the good times, and if there was any bad times, they'll be easily forgotten.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm a big fan of the greatest thinkers on a planet, and the psychology and science behind what's going on here, and it is just unnatural. I mean, anybody in the know will tell you it is unnatural for a child to reject a parent. Okay, if it's happening through an unnatural set of forces that are happening to this child. I mean, if you're a murderer, okay, kids don't, okay, they still don't turn their back on you. You're their father, you're their mother, okay? So, this parental alienation is real. The coercive control is very, very real. One of my very close friends I grew up with, who's been a superstar, is Tony. Grew up with her since seventh grade. She moved to our town. I didn't realize it at the time that she was one of these children that were put through this, and she was so mentally coerced by her adopted family that she herself, with her own words, incriminated her mother. And she woke up to this later in life and realized that, oh my God, and her mother did finally pass, and she's been putting forth service to put her story out there to let people know how real this is, because she has to live with that. And people think that you can't do it. You can't convince it. I mean, what is more malleable than a child's mind coming from a parent? And then the other dynamic is, when you separate one parent, the trauma to that child is so great that their natural inclination to hold on to the other parent with both hands, no matter what, their brain can't sit there and say, no. Well, the parent that's in my life is really the wrong one. What if the child then alienates both parents? Okay, we wouldn't be a species if our brains did that. So there's not enough talk about the universal inputs and outputs of what happens in these systems. It's not talked about as the abuse that it is enough, not in the serious, the places that can actually do something about it. Thankfully, people like you, Andy, we call you phase 3 of our 3-part plan, which is after we prove that this is a nationwide racketeering system here in the US, the next phase is actually, the next hurdle is, who cares? You think the government doesn't know that this exists? You think the people at the top, this is news to them, right? They've been warned off. It makes too much money, right? They've got a system that's built up over the years where regulation is, somebody else's job. So what's going to be the catalyst? We think the catalyst is this new media, what you're doing, how people are coming to people like you for the news that the corporate-owned media is not telling them. The corporate-owned media has screwed the pooch. They've lost the trust of their audience, and people like you are stepping up to fill that void. And the only problem is that what we're trying to do is recreate the 5 o'clock news, because the one thing the 5 o'clock news did was bring everybody together in the most important narratives. Right now, the internet's got too many messages going. It's a lot of noise, right? You have to be part of special interest groups to really understand what's going on. It's very difficult to just be a normal person, citizen, global citizen, and just be aware at the length of the lack of, we're on the verge of being a country without the rule of law. All right. We're pretty much the rule of lawyer, of power structure. And I mean, on Wall Street, we know the difference between a developed nation and an emerging market. There's a very strict line in the sand. It is the rule of law, period. No money goes into a country without the protection of the rule of law. You have two totally different worlds, two totally different lives. And people in America have had it real easy for a long, long time. I think in the West may have had it a little easy a long, long time. Everywhere we turn around, technology is not making us use our brain. We don't have to remember numbers. We don't have to remember directions. We're not using this muscle, and they're feeding us crap, intellectual junk food to keep us satisfied, and it's deteriorating. And I'm just trying to do something where I can, to be a positive force.
Yeah, we need groups that specialize in, I've seen loads of them. I mean, you can talk all day about the problem, I think, but you need specialized groups that, whether you're protesting, whether it's legal support, whether it's emotional support, you need to specialize in things people need, because I've seen at least 400 today, similar groups to your own, just in America alone, and 398 of them are probably not even worth being there. Your page has got sense, direction, and really nice people. You can scroll back months, and every single people are looking after each other.
We're trying. I mean, we're a new group, and we just went from 0 to over 500 members in literally a month, and we're learning some things along the lines. And anytime you're building a group through a public message over the internet, there are certain realities. Okay, we've had some stumbling blocks. We've had some people attacking us, trying to convince people that we're frauds somehow. And I'm trying to look at, the factors involved of, like, really, how do you take that from what we're doing, or looking past your nose at what we've done, or where I come from? I'm purposely ignoring a 30-year successful practice on Wall Street to take time, effort, and money to do this, because I'm carving out a business for myself here from the victims of family court. That's my target market. But I'm having a lot more empathy, because I'm also seeing that these people are browbeaten with abuse in this system, where everywhere they turn, they get abused, and they lose, and they suffer, and they get tormented in this. And they're smart, intelligent people, and they're being harmed in the most horrifically way, and they can't escape it. And your brain goes into fight or flight mode. So it's almost like a battered dog in a shelter that's known only to get beaten their whole life. Yeah, it's going to bite the hand that feeds sometimes, because that's all they've known is people that are taking something from them, something from them.
It makes you paranoid, to be fair, and most people out there, and they're not there to be, a lot of groups. I initially thought, my group's bigger than your group. I think everyone's doing a little bit of good, but we need a bit more, don't we, sometimes?
We do. It's. I thought it would be easier to just put yourself out there and say, "Hey, listen, we're all swimming in the same direction here. Let's see how we can work together." And you do have some competitive human factors in there. You do have people that are looking to hear themselves speak, okay, and be, a presence, be important, somewhere. And somehow they can look at what we're doing and say, this is competition for me, and they just see things in a very weak way. And I want to have, empathy, but I'm here for the legitimate victims, right? The Warrior Project, I've set this up as a public ledger for very specific reasons. Much like the way blockchain works with Bitcoin. People don't understand, why is Bitcoin the biggest, this God, savior of an innovation? It is because it is a public ledger. It is a way for disparate systems. It's unhackable because it's a truth machine, right? If I'm saying right here that no, I'm officially stating that I'm on this Andy Freeman show, but the Geico app on my phone shows that I'm doing 70 miles an hour on the parkway in New Jersey, right? Now the transaction fails. Now I'm a proven liar, okay? Because this disparate system disproved this. Well, much the way the group is here being public, number one, it gets it off of a petition in a filing cabinet somewhere that if there's no regulator, they don't have to respond to any of this legal stuff. And we're all trapped in this emperor has no clothes thinking this is really a legal issue. This is just a fraud system where they've moved, inside the power structure of the courts. And it's not all of them, okay? But it's way too many of them. So what makes Bitcoin and blockchain such a revolutionary innovation is that it is this unhackable truth verification machine. So we're looking at the Family Court Fraud Warrior Project to do the same functionally, because it is public as a public ledger. If people sign up with the same name, not a screen name, okay? The key here is staying silent, staying private, is staying in abuse, right? We know it's scary, but what I'm trying to show everybody is if you're on the side of righteousness and you're able to put evidence on permanent public record, there's a way to do this that protects you better than staying quiet, better than agreeing to be a slave in this. Now, I understand there are people out there that have legitimate psychos after them, and anything that they do puts them in physical risk of grave danger. And you know what? This is not for you, all right? But there's enough people out there that are sick of it. Okay, they see what's gone on. They have actual evidence of crimes against them, and they're willing to put their name out there in a public ledger and say, this happened to me. And if there's hundreds and thousands of people doing that, there's strength in our numbers. But we're also asking people to do a 3-minute video. Why? Because that's a verification machine right there. People who are not victims, people who are profiteers coming in, people that are predators and parasites looking to take advantage of this haven for victims. We know those kind of people or animals at the end of the day. They're going to be people out there looking to pick off the weak and the meek and the hurting, right? And we're going to protect our flock here because we don't need everybody. We just need to prove this is an organic, authentic. Everyone in this group, okay, is a bona fide victim, and you can't hide it anymore. It is here. It's on everybody's phone, anywhere in the world. Boom, they can pull it up. So, Mr. Regulator, pretend that this doesn't exist. Say that this is a rumor now, okay? Well, the public ledger nature of this speaks highly scientifically against that. And I think showing it versus other parallels in the financial world of what constitutes financial fraud can be something to spark a national conversation, because again, no matter what we do, it's going to be, who cares? Who's in a position to do something about it, right? I still have to live here knowing that if they bang down the door right now and throw me in jail for any made up reason, it'll probably take 6 months for me to get released, and the damage would be unsurvivable. I mean, I would still live, but I would throw away my 30-year career, and who knows what would happen to my children. So I know not everybody is willing to take these kind of risks, but I think because I have and stepped out and jumped in the pool first, that it makes there less risk for others to follow, and that's what I'm hoping will happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I always believe in. I'm not a religious person, but some of the Bible quotes, Jesus says, "Tell the truth; it'll set you free." Not just yourselves, but any bad, judge or court person or social worker. If they had the numbers. In fact, the way you do this 3-minute video is an awesome idea. You've got to be aware because people might copy that idea, but it's also, not. Who cares if people do copy the idea?
Good. Copy the idea.
It's about the numbers.
Right. And the point is, if I get a couple of thousand from around the country that are authentic, verifiable victims, because the 3-minute video, I think, does other things too. I think this is how people absorb information. You know, you need to look into people's eyes and hear them talk about, I have not seen my son in 587 days. This is why. I don't think non-victims are going to be able to do that, looking into the camera and saying this is going to remain on permanent public record on a public ledger if they're full of shit. I think also that the public aspect of this is that people have evidence showing that this person is full of shit. Okay, the temptation is going to be too great to say, this didn't happen. You know, this is public. This didn't happen. So it has a self-correcting mechanism in its own effect of this public ledger, where we're taking the genius of Bitcoin and saying, can we effectively do the same thing here a different way? And I think there's a lot of scientific backing to say that we do. So you know, we get a couple of thousand. There could be thousands of other people doing other things. Great, but I get a couple of thousand authentic victims here with the bravery to step forward and say and tell their story. And it can't be 18 pages, right? Because we want to do that. Every single day I get somebody messaging me 18-page text, and I'm not making fun of them because I was that guy. I just want them to understand what is the mechanism in the brain that you're not seeing that forces you to do that. It's because you're holding this poison inside and you got to get it out. And you got to get all of it out. But that also says, I'm so hell-bent on this that even if you're making sense to me here and you're on my side, I'm not going to hear it. I'm going to fight you because all I know is fight. So we want to be empathetic, but people that are coming into the group that want to start fights, want to say, make it about them, you know, whatever it is, the human fallibilities. The 3-minute video, we think, is going to be the ultimate, qualifier of legitimate science to say that these are in fact victims, and the fact that their name is matching the dockets of the courts, that people can click through and see, oh, this is a real person, right? You know, the profile page, this is not AI, this is not some troll, this is a real person. Functionally, this can be a verification machine for victims, and we get enough. Now I'm going to use the polling feature. And I'm going to ask 30 to 40 of the most specific questions so that we can get numbers like 80% of the people arrested in divorce, in contested divorces in New York, never had a criminal record before. And the average age was 47 years old. Now we look at all the actual science in criminal justice that says in all populations, criminal activity is 4 to 6%. So what's going on here, guys? Did we just prove that we have a fraudulent system going on? There's no way the numbers, if they're true, and we can show that they're true, that 80% never. Now we know that's a playbook. That is a fraudulent tactic used in the courts for, now you just follow the money. Who gets paid on each decision, on each transaction? And I plan on writing it up the way I would write up an industry report on Wall Street. Talk about the revenue generating units. Your children are not children. They're revenue generating units in this industry.
Yeah, I hope the UK people are taking note of what this group does, because I think that's an awesome idea. I mean, it's so simple, but no one's thought about that. Nobody's thought about it. It's amazing how I think our paths were meant to meet, just because, yeah, some good ideas, good minds think alike. Share it to others who have got good minds, and people are currently helping people. You know, they can, think of that idea and expand it a bit.
Of course, just take it and run with it. That's the thing that we did with the protest last Friday. We organized in a week's time a protest going to a town in New Jersey that's widely known as being one of the most corrupt in the entire world. And exemplifying that fact is the fact that there is a mother from that town facing 33 years in prison for her Facebook post, because the judge interpreted her Facebook post as a terroristic threat against his grown children. This 100-pound mother was going to, seize, she was repeating his comments in court and didn't use the quotation marks. So that was the bullshit that they thought would fly. But it's so corrupt. And literally, Andy, in 4 posts on this Warrior Project site, Anyone has to invest is a half an hour of time of reading the article written by Richard Luthman, seeing the 2 videos from their daughter talking about the husband, okay, the father in question, the corrupt gentleman in question, we like to call Johnny Uranus, that he did, in fact, strangle her or put his hands on her. I don't want to get into that side, but the whole point is that she cannot be facing 33 years in prison for false allegation of abuse. So it's a Facebook post and it's a false allegation of abuse, has her facing 33 years. And then now they're trying to say she's crazy because they're making her crazy, okay, with this abuse. And it's just absolutely appalling. So we got together and everyone warned me, people don't show up specifically for protests around, look, you're going after judges and dirty attorneys, all right? They're powerful people that can make your life miserable. And one-on-one, yes, okay? But what we're saying is we're not one-on-one anymore, okay? This is so widespread that we have enough of a victim base already started to say that, this is not one-on-one anymore. This is now, I said before, when you're in these courts, it's like you're playing basketball 1-on-30. Right? There's 30 people in efforts against you. Of course you're going to lose with everything. This is a way for this to be now 90-on-30. All right. And I'm sorry, we have the power of righteousness. Right? We're going to make sure there's not actual guilty people in this group. Okay. We believe that this and other measures has a way of filtering that out. And having and utilizing the transparency. All right. It's been 20 years now. Everybody's had a phone on that. All right. So, my divorce, 98% of it happened over text message and email. So the amount of hearsay that's out there in this world over the last 20 years is not what the system will make you believe, right? This stuff is trackable and, putting evidence of crimes against you that are any Tom, Dick, and Harry can figure out is not in the best interest of your children, right? We're trying to show people a template of how you can do this too. Okay. We need to show up in person. The difference was we weren't just a group of screen names screaming on Facebook. We showed up from all different parts of the country to say, this is what happened. And I got to tell you, Andy, the best compliment of how effective it was the fact that when we started this protest, the 3 cops who were stationed to watch me, basically the organizer, who I heard from everybody under the sun. I'm getting calls 9-10 o'clock at night the night before. Don't do this. They're going to slam you to the ground. You're going to be gone for 6 months in jail. I was scared. I was very, very scared about it. But I said, I knew that this documentary film crew was following me, and I knew that they would have to have it on film. Okay. It still has a 25% chance of happening, but I knew the power that this would be captured on film and have the ability to get out there. It wasn't a guarantee of safety, but it was enough to let me do it. And by the end of the presentation, the cops, okay, were the first ones to come up to shake my hand. They had the biggest smiles on their faces. They thought we were coming in there to throw mud in their eyes and say they're all criminals. When they saw that we were here talking about human rights, right and wrong, what's happening, how many of these people are having their children, how wrong it is. When they saw the one woman crying, I swear I looked over at the other cop and he was fighting back tears himself. So I think that speaks the loudest volume of why it matters, why doing this at other locations where this is happening, showing up in the flesh, not for everybody, but the more and more people we can get to do this and go, how is that not move the needle? Because what we're doing now, screaming on private messages and submitting, we've seen 10,000 legal efforts not work. What sense does it make to talk about the 10,000 and first? If that's not the definition of insanity, what is, right? It's like you're playing checkers, they're playing chess, or they're playing a different game altogether, right? And we're just saying to the real criminals out there, to the people that will harm a whistleblower, You know, a mom who's sticking up and saying, I'm standing up to my abuser. I am not going to take this anymore. Here's the evidence of the crimes against me. If she gets retaliated against by these people, no. We need to show that the power of transparency is bigger than them. They cannot. Okay, people did not die in wars for the rule of law in this country. Okay, so that someone can have a business model, someone can feel like a big guy, But there's some real evil shit going on too, because they know the level of pain and harm that they're causing. I didn't want to have this be about CPS because that's not my experience. I don't like to speak to something that I don't have expertise in. But the amount of stories coming about it, there's cash for kids, okay, and the amount of people that have been harmed. I mean, placing a special needs child in this country, the amount of reimbursements that they get after every single, fraudulent service provider takes a piece of the pie and goes around. But the level of disgusting, they're a product, these kids, and the motivation. We say on Wall Street, other places, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, these CPS workers, everything looks like a nail, right? And they're damaging a lot of people, and they're not respecting the bond that, the God-given right to your children that you have. I'm not a especially religious person, but I do think that is holier than that. I think the bond between a child and their parent, you need to have 10 times the evidence that this parent is a danger to that child before you think of removing that bond between that child, is my personal belief in this. But I know a lot of people agree with me.
I was going to say to people, I don't want you to do what I did, but actually it turned out for the better. What I did when I was younger, obviously younger than I am now, I'll just try and find it. Yeah. I came up with this idea. Now, the first thing I decided to do was, how can I make people listen to children being taken into care? I was with a group called Children Screaming to Be Heard, and we obviously had to compromise with the law, the police, and we managed to block 1 or 2 lanes off of a 4-lane motorway, and we managed to get the media attention and really, I don't want people to think that that's easy, because you do worry the night before that you're going to get arrested. Somebody had to say something, and that's basically what we did. While we're at it, I mean, if we say 5 or 10 minutes, we could see if any of the people from your group want to call in.
Sure. I wasn't. We've had so many initiatives going on here that we're trying to get much more organized for. I don't know if. Or should
we do a call-in show another time?
Well, I mean, if there's anybody listening that wants to call in, we'd be happy to discuss and call and speak about anything. But I'm not 100% sure that people are connected at the site through the live stream, of this. We may need to do the replay and show it there. I'm sorry I didn't organize this as well as I should with these connections.
Today I've been up since 6 a.m. until 3 p.m. sharing this in every goddamn Facebook group, X, blogger, everywhere. So I'm hoping someone's listening. On the live feed, if you're on the live feed, there's a number for the US, the UK, and the rest of the world. Every show we have a different PIN number, which makes it a bit complicated. But today's PIN number, if you're listening, you might get a pen and paper. I'll repeat it in a couple of minutes. It's 3992 5695 05 hash. So that's 3992 5695 05 hash. Now that is a bit of a mouthful, I think, and my people that put this platform together, they're looking into making it a lot easier. I can't understand why you can't just
that pin's a killer. That pin's a killer for people to have to write down and read. I don't even think I copied it down
Well, actually, if you did want anybody to call in, send them your link that I sent you, if you've still got it. Just send it to personal messaging to a couple of the admins if they want to take part. I think it was Amy. Somebody did anyway.
Yeah, probably is Amy, who's been fantastic, running things from Louisiana, and now Kara is on board.
A good thing is they don't have to put the video on if they don't want to, so they can have video or audio when they put the name in the room. And then we'll do a proper call-in show another time with you in a week or so.
Sounds good.
Because I like to get people sharing their part of their stories as well. Because
we are just unfortunately we are. Where is the screen here? I seem to have lost the screen. We're on so many different technologies now, between Facebook and Messenger and the board, and then the group chats, and then also email, and we're trying to set up a corporate email system as well. So it has been a bit challenging to stay on top of all this growing interest in our group and the questions that are coming in. I am searching for the way. I think I disconnected somehow.
You're still there.
Oh, I am still there. Okay,
yeah,
so
you're
I'm not
still with me anyway.
I'm not going there. Okay, there we are. Beautiful. All right. I realized it was just another tab. Yeah, we're dealing with some different technology issues that I'm used to in my normal day, and I just want to put out a disclosure for my clients that people have this question of, like, Dave, you're in charge of a lot of money, on people's money that have signed over, decision making, with your funds. We have a very unique set of strategies. I'm a specialist in what's called structure investments, and it's all about building bonds, building yield oriented investments. So all the geniuses up front, and once we built it, now we're just collecting interest as it comes in. So we're not in this need to be trading every single day or doing anything like that. That's given me the ability to be able to have a significant interest in kicking this off and setting this up for hopefully a lot of people to kind of come in and join.
Yeah, I think we do have somebody here. Duncan, Amy, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Brilliant. I'd love to hear your voice. She's got a true American voice.
Oh, I do? Okay.
Yeah, she's all about New Orleans. She's all about Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Yeah, tell us a bit about yourself and how you joined the group.
Okay. I also was a victim of family court. I had my children taken ex parte by my ex-husband after 3 years into the divorce. He hadn't spoken to us at all in those 3 years. We didn't even know where he was. So for him to come back out of nowhere and take them was traumatizing. Not that I want to keep them from him, but at the time it scared them. They didn't know what was happening. My daughter jumped out of a moving vehicle. Thank God she's alive today. And we went through court. We spent their college savings. We spent our life savings. We got stuck. And I just kept thinking there has to be a better way. So I kept filing complaints, going to the legislature,
And what they do to you, Amy, on your birth, and what they do to you on your wedding? Because of all that.
That's where I did not realize that the system did work like it was supposed to yet, until I wouldn't shut up. And then they started retaliating. I was getting married again. I was at our wedding. The weekend of our wedding, the Friday night before the Saturday wedding, our house was surrounded by 15 officers from 2 units including SWAT, and we were arrested with my fiance's ex-wife present with the police filming for back child support. There was no minor children. This was sheer retaliation to shut us up. They dropped the charges against him after he spent 2 weeks in jail, but then charged me with felony obstruction of justice.
Yeah, don't you know it takes 15 people to arrest a 5-foot woman in
I
Louisiana?
was tased. My dog
you know
was
that?
tased. I was punched in the face. They put 2 holes in the wall of my house. It was chaos, and nobody would even stop to even say what was happening. I said, "What is this about?" And they kept telling me my fiance was a wanted felon, and I'm like, "A wanted felon for what?" They couldn't answer that. Just a felony. Just a felony. He committed a felony. That's all they got.
Maybe you're not aware of this, Andy. In Louisiana, they have a special sauce for corruption. It goes deep in the roots of Louisiana history.
I mean, even if the person was a felon, and even if they had to be arrested, they would have done it the day before, the day after, not actually on the day of someone's wedding.
He went to the courthouse in person prior to that because his daughter had text messaged him and said, "Mom said she's having you arrested." So we voluntarily went to the courthouse.
That was a decision. Somebody made a decision to do that. Somebody made the decision, no, we're going to arrest her at her wedding. Okay, we're going to put on
humiliate us and to make it as costly and damaging and traumatizing as possible. To have to sit there and try to figure out, we've got all these people flying out in the morning because our wedding was in Vegas and we had 20 people flying to Vegas, and I had to sit there and call and tell everybody, "Sorry, you're in Vegas, we're not." We got arrested. We're in jail instead. I'm so sorry.
And now the chips have fallen to see that she's not a criminal. She's one of the sweetest people I've ever met in my life. So then what? So we're supposed to just sit back and this is okay. This is just exists. This is just the entitlement that these, I don't want to say, people have, okay, down there. I mean, I can't think of a thing that indicates a smaller penis size than actually really just getting pleasure out of doing something like that and ruining somebody's wedding for such a bullshit thing like this. I mean, who are these people who get pleasure off of doing this? This is what we need to expose. This is where in the land of transparency, this is where they can't just operate without eyes on them. They're not. Everybody's got a phone on them. All right. And we're going to be looking at new initiatives. Okay. If we need to put up an initiative that, hey, listen, there's no way in 20 years of people having phones on them that there is a recorded history of corruption, that people don't know what to do with it. They're in their community. They know if they come out by themselves, the hammer's coming down. They're going to find a reason. But you know what? Coming out all together in a sea, and that stuff you send to us anonymously, you don't need to be a real person, okay? Because the evidence speaks to itself, right? And then thankfully, we've got a good relationship with the one journalist that has had the goal to actually report on these matters. It's been appalling how the investigative journalists at the corporate-owned media have been warned off this topic. They will not report on it. I think it's almost treasonous. Okay. And just going with the flow because I got to keep my job. I can't go against this. This is what sows the seeds to hell. I think if we need people to be afraid of not reporting what they know, well, we'll take that too. We'll take that too, because it's high time. It's high time that the good guys start winning a little bit, and transparency is the way for that to happen.
I mean, I always find, Amy and Dave, that a lot of these families, when they've had problems, involved courts or social workers, All they probably needed, majority of them, they just needed advice and guidance. They didn't need their children taken to make their lives hell, lose their jobs, lose their estate, their money. They just needed guidance.
But that's how they get control, is creating government dependence. And then
that's the long ball of it. That's the long ball of it. But breaking it down to its most core, inner fundamentals of what makes this work is that you've got to follow the money. All right, these agencies get paid a certain way, and they have implicit quotas. But the issue here is the structure of the compensation structure of how these organizations actually survive. The compensation structure of judges. Okay, there should be no elected judge anywhere. An elected, that's a politician. That's now somebody that's beholden to interest, beholden to money interests about that. The structure is designed to fail. And, enough people are getting it and screaming about it, but I'm trying to see how we could scream in the same direction.
Keeps getting bigger that they need. It's like there's never enough. So it started out that they were only targeting this, and then it went to this, and then eventually everybody's going to be a target, or somebody's going to stop it.
Or just walking around this planet knowing that if you step on the crack on the street and you happen to get married and you happen to have children and you happen to have one of these situations where you break up and the wrong attorney gets in your spouse's ear and says, you could do this. It's a recipe. They know what to do. It's certain. You do certain inputs, you get very predictable outputs. And I think exposing the actual playbook, the actual step-by-step playbook, the assignment of roles. One spouse is willing to cause havoc and pay for it. The other spouse is willing to do anything to correct it. They assign roles. They know who's who right when you're getting in there. And I could go on for 3 weeks about the other pieces of the pie, but we're going to have that proven through the polling that we do through our public ledger system through the group.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's in people's DNA to try and protect their children. So I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm just a bit silly sometimes the way I think. I just can't work out with parental alienation. I'm sure they don't deliberately think today we're going to divorce, tomorrow we're going to fight over the kids. I'm sure it must be common sense, surely, to protect your kids. Protect your kids at all costs.
Yeah. The parental alienation thing, and this is a unique discussion around what's different between the U.S. and the U.K., and I can speak to this because we've spoken about it at length with Charlie, and I've been part of groups with other people, and we've been sharing experiences. And in the U.K., it seems more to be about the parental alienation. Amazingly, most of the people in these groups are women, okay? And you would think that as far as children are concerned, there'd be a bias towards women always being awarded the children. But it's a bias towards who has the money, okay? And many times the man has the money and is willing to pay for the havoc that is fed to him. And it produces these predictable results. That's horrific.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Not about any special interest. It's about most money earned. What is the most
that's what
the court?
I got lost in my thought process right there. But in the UK, it seems that in other places it's more about the parental alienation and less about the business model of the courts. I mean, there are a lot of complaints about barristers in this and how they're compensated or whatever, but it is a different tinge here in the U.S. In the U.S., these are not people, these are revenue generating units. And it is a universal playbook that is 100% driven by financial interests. Now, they purposely select people that are flawed individuals, All right. It's amazing how many people in this system caring for kids don't have kids themselves. Right. And give me that bullshit. Oh, it shouldn't matter. No, it matters. Okay. One thing you know is when you're a parent, you get hit with that, like, oh my God, I didn't get it before. Now I understand. I would give my life for this child. You wouldn't give your life for anything else. You would give your life for your child. All right. So don't tell me that shouldn't be part of the profiling system. Now, I wouldn't think to exclude somebody, but shouldn't be 40% of judges in family court don't have children themselves at 50 years old, at 60 years old. All right. There's about 400,000 of human history that says that this is distressful. This is telling you you are not completing your function on planet Earth. Okay, the greatest driver we have is to procreate. How much of what we do is to procreate? All right, and now you have this function. I'm not saying that women can't be normal, by not having kids. Okay, but it's also equally stupid to not address the facts that it can cause distress and a disconnect to people's whatever. Okay, ability to be, quote unquote normal, I guess. And the numbers is what I think really speaks to this. This is why we're eager to get the numbers, because we could talk about, oh, this happens and this happens and this happens and this happened with you too. And many of these sites you brought up, there's 300, 400 sites. Most of them are about sharing and comparing notes and one-upping each other. Oh, this happened to you? Oh, well, you have to hear what happened to me. And there's limited benefit to that. You re-traumatize yourself. Are you really getting anywhere, right? We want to make our group about a singular focus of doing. What are we doing? Are we doing stuff that has a positive, that has a chance of progressing, of showing success, of showing progress towards an end, right? There are other sites that are great for discussing legal remedies, discussing your own personal case. Our group is set up for a very, very specific reason to do a specific thing. And we hope people, and we know that a lot of people do respect this, but, trying to get people to recognize, just maybe how damaged they are and maybe how they're not seeing that this is a good thing for them. We want to be empathetic and open to have people like make a mistake, right? Hey, I said something smarmy. I said something stupid. I put my foot in my mouth. But you know what? This wasn't a death sentence, okay? You weren't exiled and you're no longer part of our group. We don't want to do that, okay? We don't want to do that. But we're not going to handle wolves in sheep's clothing, pretending, okay? We're a little smarter than that.
Yeah, you're probably a little bit right about the UK. I think 25% maybe of the court issue, the judges and all that. 75% is what we call forced adoption, CPS abuse. Although in this book I've got on screen now, Ian Joseph, he's been a county councillor at one point, and he wrote this book, and it briefly says forced adoptions. Oh, hang on, forget that bit. It exposes the secret family courts to gagging the parents, and worse still, the forced adoption of their children for trivial reasons. I did not believe that secret courts and forced adoptions in a money-driven industry could exist until I verified actual cases, free legal help and advice. And he's still about now. He's 80-odd years of age. Anybody Googles Ian Joseph's France, and he can help you with the court stuff in the UK, of course.
Yeah, there's stuff out there. People have done this. People have made documentaries. People have done great work. They've given them their blood, sweat, and tears towards this. And we're trying to learn. We're trying to stand on these great people's shoulders and say, okay, let's look at the numbers. What's worked? What hasn't worked? Why? Okay, and even something like managing people's energy, we're trying to make this site be this public ledger, and everything we're asking about simplicity, right? Even stuff like, oh, don't leave here. And then if you're going to do it this way, then go to the website. And, it is so hard. I had 3 Uber drivers hear me over the phone coming back from JFK, the airport. and pull over because they had to say, I heard you on the phone. I can't believe what you're doing. This happened to me. All right. I haven't seen my kids in 3 years. They're in California somewhere. I'm an engineer and I can't work in my field. This is all I can do. And I can barely even do this every day. It's rendering people incapable of being normal, of running their lives. It's rendering them even with our friend Lindsay, who has, not been the easiest person, to deal with. But she's shattered. Okay. This is not a drug addict. Okay. This is not a bad person at heart. Okay. I'm sure she's driven her family crazy with this, that, and the other thing, but to the point that she should be separated from her child. Her child should be separated from her, should be attacked the way that she's being attacked for standing up and being part of this protest and being part of this movement. This is beyond the level of wrong. This is so far past wrong. It's so disgusting that what is it going to take? What is it going to take to actually bring this over the goal line? I don't know, but we're trying to find it.
I think people need to see the value in people. History has told us over and over again. People are the most valuable asset of any country.
Well, yeah, you said it right there, Amy. That I just said. Just look at it logically, right? Like when a couple of people know that there's a corrupt government official, and only a couple know, they're in trouble. They use their power to exert it over them. And when everybody knows and everybody shows up at the gates, okay, pitchforks and fire, saying no. All right, things change. Okay, things change, but nobody wants to be a
mindset for people to realize that they have the ability to stand up and that they do have value. They have to find that in themselves.
Well, I understand that, Amy, but I don't want to come down on people too hard. They haven't had a mechanism to know that when they're coming out at the same time of hundreds of people. They're coming out with the benefit of backup, so that they're not one person versus a machine. I do not recommend
I agree.
anyone do this alone. You would be nuts to do this alone.
There's power in numbers, and that's what we're trying to. Can we just unite for this one purpose? Put everything else to the side.
And we're not telling anybody to stop doing what they're doing, okay? We're just saying this may have a chance to work. So if you are a real victim, sign up with your regular name. Sign up with the name that says, I'm not hiding anymore. I am saying this happened to me too. I am a victim of the family court. And then do this 3-minute video. It takes 3 minutes, okay? Or maybe more, obviously, to put that in. And that's it. And then be available to answer 30 to 40 questions. You could do that and keep doing whatever you're doing, right? But don't sit there and take us down because you're working on something else. I mean, look at yourself in the mirror and say, who does that, right? And this is where we think this is a verifier, because if you're really a true victim of the family courts and you see people that are putting a different kind of plan together that has a chance of working, that's showing that they've been successful in their own case, where you never hear of any success anywhere. What is it in you? I don't believe a true victim would have the inclination to find something negative about us, about anything that we're doing. Your brain just wouldn't work that way, unless you are this, battered puppy that you've only known damage your whole life, okay, or extended period of time. And then you got to recognize that, that your brain is maybe not working properly here, and that maybe you should be doing more listening than talking, right? It's okay. We're all not going to be strong at the same time, right? We're going to have times where one's up and the other one's down. And the whole idea of this community is that we rely on each other. We rely on each other to get ourselves in the direction of healing. And I want to just also say there's a personal interest in this, because when I've started to, again, I think mentioned before, doing service, and I started doing stuff outside of just my case and what helps me, all of a sudden, I'm not ruminating in my head anymore. All of a sudden, I'm looking up and I'm like saying, I actually don't care. I actually don't care anymore what my ex did to me. Don't care what her boyfriend did to me. I still care what her attorney did, because he's a bad person that needs to never have the ability to harm another family the way, I know he's harmed families, and I have evidence he's harmed families, a lot of them. Okay. And, and we're taking care of that. And hopefully we're showing a model, a template of how people can actually get somewhere.
Yeah, it sounds a good project. If you don't mind, if we could call it time on this one, but I would like people to email in, or even just talk to Dave or Amy. And if you want to be part of the next show, I'm happy, to do people's stories. We can talk about that. We can talk about group actions. We can basically talk about anything and everything. There hasn't been one topic I haven't discussed. Only this is a nice idea. So please, if you're in America, go to the Family Court Fraud Warrior Project on Facebook. Dave and the admin will look after you, and it's just a unique idea, and I think it's going to blow us away in the 3 months' time. Instead of seeing 300 or 500 there, we're going to be seeing 2,000 plus.
Well, we hope so. I think we need that much to call it science. We need a big enough pool to call it data, right? There's standards here that we're not going to hit. We're not doing this for the likes. We're not trying to be Facebook famous, right? We're really trying to be about the content and be on point about the solution we think that can work here. All right. And we have some substantiation to believe that it should and it could work. If we're able to get, people to stop infighting long enough to get on the same page.
It could help all the smaller groups in the process. They can use this to help their purpose. It's not an either or. Everybody can.
Absolutely. We're not pulling anyone away from anybody else. Okay. We are, really, really supportive. It's just, we also want to be cognizant that we cannot let this group devolve into noise. It cannot be all these, messengers messaging what they want to message about, and with their initiative. That's not what this group is for, right? There's 500 other groups, right, to do specifics. We think we have a very, very pointed reason for wanting and needing to moderate it in this way, and we hope that people can respect it.
Absolutely. And if people have just joined the show and they want to listen again, I'll send Dave the completed copy, and please do take part.